Well, hello, friends. Happy Hump Day to you. Welcome to Wednesday's edition of Take 5. We're in the series that we've entitled Excellence, Promotion, and Entitlement. And we've kind of subtitled what we're talking about this week, and we're calling it Excellence and Promotion in Babylon. We don't have time this week to talk about entitlement. We'll do that next week. But this week, we're just looking at how living with excellence will bring promotion into your life. That's what God wants to do. God wants to promote His people inside of the world systems that we live in today, in our politics, in our economy, in our education system, and everything else. God will absolutely promote His people. If we'll just live and serve and obey Him with excellence, God will do it. Now, you've got those people that think that you can't be sold out to God and thrive inside of these systems, but I don't agree with that. God has always prospered His people, even when they were in captivity. If they would just obey Him with excellence, God has always done that, and that's no different than where we are right now today. Now, we are talking about Daniel and Hananiah and Mishael and Azariah. That's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, if you don't know who that is. We're talking about those four young men there who are in exile with the rest of the Jews there in Babylon, and how these four guys chose to distinguish themselves and set themselves apart because of the excellent spirit that was in them. And because of that, God is promoting them and blessing them and using them in a mighty way. Yesterday, we learned that when you live with excellence, God will bring promotion into your life because He is sovereign even in Babylon. Now, before we talk about today, let me remind you, first of all, that Babylon, we're using that to represent the world around us right now. Because that's what Babylon was to these four young men. It was a total different culture. It was a total different mindset. It was contrary and counter to their religion, their faith. Everything about their life, it was counter. And that's what the world is really to Christianity. Now, I'm not one of those persons that's, just thinks that the world's out to get us Christians, I'm not one of those people, but I'm smart enough to know that the world and its systems and everything about it is counter Christianity. It doesn't line up with the Bible. We know that. But I believe that when we serve God with excellence and we obey the Bible, I believe God knows how to promote and bless His people in this modern day Babylon that we live in today. Second thing that I want us to talk about today, or for this week rather, is this. Living with excellence brings promotion because God knows how to sustain His people in Babylon. We know He's sovereign even in Babylon. And we know He knows how to sustain His people, even in Babylon, in the world we live in right now. Daniel 1:8-9 says, Daniel resolved that he would not defile himself with the king's food or with the wine that he drank. Therefore he asked the chief of the eunuchs to allow him not to defile himself. And God gave Daniel favor and compassion in the sight of the chief of the eunuchs. There's that phrase, and God gave again. And we just see that God is present and at work in Babylon. Now, God used Babylon to sustain His people and actually increase their number while they were in captivity, because He intends for His people to be promoted and to excel in every environment. He did the same thing for Israel while they were in Egypt. If you remember Exodus chapter 1, when Pharaoh began to try to put the pressure on Israel and to take their numbers down, the Bible said that the more he afflicted them, the more they multiplied. And that's how it should be even today. Now, there's several ideas as to why Daniel refused to eat the king's meat or drink his wine. One of them says that it's because of the dietary restrictions in Leviticus. Another one says that he didn't want to eat the king's meat because it had probably been offered to idols, but he did eat Babylonian vegetables, and the vegetables had probably been offered as sacrificial as well. So it really could be either one, or it could be something else. I think it's quite possible, and Chad Scruggs, a pastor in Tennessee, actually said this, and I really like this idea. he actually said it's quite possible that the decision to eat the king's, not to eat the king's meat and drink his wine was simply Daniel drawing a line in the sand and saying, okay, I've got to make a decision. I've got to do something to set myself apart from the rest. And so he drew a line of demarcation, as it were, there to make a difference between himself and his three friends and the rest that were eating the king's meat. Now, so to me, that's the most important thing. It doesn't matter why. The Bible doesn't really tell us why, and we ought to be okay with that. The important thing is to know that he decided to draw a line in the sand and let the world see, let Babylon see that God knows how to sustain his people regardless of where they are. And that's what God's looking for today. And that's actually what happened. The whole world had to acknowledge, because after they tested Daniel and Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego, they found them 10 times better than the rest. And so the guy that was in charge of them said, that's fine. You can just eat peas and beans and water. That's fine with me. We don't have to even worry about it, because God is taking care of you. And that's what God's looking for in believers today. He just wants people that will live and operate in this world and under its systems in an excellent way that draws a line between Christians and non-Christians and causes the world to see how God will take care of us. I want you to understand today, it doesn't matter what happens in our economy. It doesn't matter what happens in our politics or any other system. God knows how to sustain his people if we'll just draw a line and say, okay, we're going to be different. We are going to set ourselves apart. And don't do it. Don't be a jerk when you do it, okay? Notice when Daniel went to the eunuch about the eating the vegetables, he asked. He was polite. He was easygoing. He was godly in the way that he approached them. He wasn't some Christian jerk about it. He had an excellent attitude, and that went a long way in the eunuch allowing him to do what he did. So let's do that. Let's decide to draw a line somewhere. Let's sever ourselves from the world. Let's don't complain like the world. Let's don't fuss like the world. Let's don't argue like the world. Let's don't be afraid like the world. And let's sever ourselves from non-Christians and let the world see, let Babylon see that even in the midst of a society that we live in today, that God is sovereign and he knows how to sustain his people. Well, hey, it's been good being with you today. I've got to get out of here. I look forward to being with you tomorrow on Thursday's edition of Take 5. Till then, God bless you. Have a great day. Remember, friend, trust the Lord. He will never fail you.